Hi, I'm Jake.
I'm Andy.
I'm Kali.
And I'm Graham, and I'm really excited to talk to you guys today about the Dragonflight Evoker.
So Season 4 is finally coming out. Blizzard likes to do these last seasons as kind of like a recap of the entire expansion. So we're getting to relive some of the best tier bonuses we had previously. We get to do all the dungeons over again, all of the raids. It's kind of like a sampler plate season. There's not a lot changing for Devastation Evoker, but I still wanted to put out a video just to give you all the information you need about how you're going to play this, what you're going to be looking for gear. So everything you need to know will be included in this video. That being said, it's probably going to be a little bit shorter than my typical Devastation Evoker guides. But I see that as a good thing. So in this video, we're going to be covering our talents, best gear, preferred stats, consumables, what the bonus does for us, if clipping is still a thing, our rotation. We'll also be covering the openers and how you're going to play in single target and AoE. So let's just jump right into it. Okay, so first up is talents, and this is basically the same talent build that you have been playing the entire expansion. Obviously, they've done a couple things to redo the tree, but it's the same stuff you're playing right now. The only difference here, the important thing you need to note, is that we're actually playing Eye of Infinity now instead of Event Horizon. Now, if you like Event Horizon, you can keep playing it, but it turns out Eye of Infinity is just slightly better. Also, because we're playing Eye of Infinity, we will be prioritizing Eternity Surge in our Dragon Rage a little bit less, so you're going to see a little bit of a change in the actual rotation itself. But same rules still apply as always. If you need to go AoE, if you're ever doing 3 targets, definitely make sure you pick up Volatility. This talent is really, really good. Anytime you're 2 targets, you want to definitely have Eternity Span knocked in here. And if it's pure single target, you're going to want to move Eternity Span over to Honed Aggression. And aside from that, that is really all that's changing here on the Devastation Evoker side. Now, on the Evoker side, obviously, we have some utility that we might want to pick up. Stuff like Cauterizing Flame, Zephyr, Rescue perhaps. So you can always move some points around, but if you're going to start pulling points out, you should start looking at Innate Magic first. This is going to be the best way to move stuff around. And make sure that you keep Ancient Flame, Leaping Flames, and Scarlet Adaptation. Those 3 are pretty important. Don't ever drop those talents, but you know, if you don't have to do Source of Magic, or maybe if the Leech isn't doing much for you in the fight, you can probably pull those out as well. Also, make sure if you're a Mythic Plus that you have Imposing Presence. So this is the Quell cooldown reduction. And if you don't need an Interrupt, you can always swap into Inner Radiance instead. I find this one is very strong in Raid, and I really like being able to just hit myself with a huge heal whenever I need it. Okay, let's move on to the gear. So a lot of our gearing is staying the same, but we are going to have a lot more stats. So the tier bonus that we're working with in Season 4 is the Season 2 tier bonus. This tier bonus actually changes how we play outside of Dragon Rage. So it makes our Disintegrates and our Pyres deal more damage. It also makes our Empower spells kind of make them flare up and deal additional damage, and we also get more Empower damage as well. So you're going to want to get your 4-piece as soon as possible. As soon as you're able to break your current 4-piece and get the 2-piece of this one, you'll definitely want to do that. And then when it comes to our weapon, we are actually wearing the Evoker Legendary once again, and you're actually able to upgrade this item. So there is a vendor over here on the map. I've marked it. This is the Bullion vendor, so you can actually use these coins that you get from Raid and also from certain quests, and you can turn them in at this vendor, and this vendor has a guaranteed item upgrade for the legendary. I don't know if you're going to be able to get it elsewhere. Haven't really killed bosses on PTR, but it might be possible to get them elsewhere as well. But you can also use those bullions to buy a lot of the rare gear, and as you can see, I'm wearing a lot of it, so there's a lot of pieces that we're going to need to get in here. So I'm just going to start with the trinkets. In single target, Nimue's Unraveling Spindle is actually still our best in slot, unfortunately. Trinket's just way too good, but there are good alternatives if we are looking to maybe not use this thing. So I've actually updated my Wowhead guide. I'm not sure when this is going to go live, but I assume it will be live by the time you watch this video. So in single target, yeah, these 2 are the best, but then we can also run Belors. We can also run OCE. Spoils is actually not too bad in single target too. And in my opinion, I kind of just like the idea of just running Spoils and not having to worry about it. But whenever it comes to Mythic Plus, it's going to be a little different. So they actually reworked how the Fractured Heart works, and now it causes like an Execute. I think this thing's going to get nerfed, but it's like insanely powerful. And we also have the Tome of Unstable Power. This thing is super strong in AoE. So I think those 2 would probably be really nice to have in here, maybe with Whispering and Incarnate Icon. And of course, if you want to, you can also run Spoils as well. It's going to be a great trinket. I should also mention here, so if you don't have the Legendary, you definitely want to either get your hands on Vakash or Dreambinder. But even in the best case scenario, these are going to be like 3% behind the Legendary with an offhand. So you really just want to get your hands on that legendary. If you don't have it right now, you can always run Heroic Avarice, even if it's not the Awakened Raid, because it kind of has like a rotation. you can still have a chance at the Evoker Legendary. So definitely try to work towards that as soon as you can. When it comes to our other pieces, so I'm wearing a rare neck, but this is just because it's the one I have and I don't have one to replace it on PTR. But you can really run any neck as long as it has like crit, haste, or verse on it. The general rule here is we're trying to avoid mastery to some extent, but actually with the amount of stats that we're getting and because of how stats DR at certain levels, haste is 5,100, crits 5,400, mastery is 5,400, and verse is like 6,250 or something like that. Because of how they DR, we kind of just want like a sampler plate of all the secondaries. So you can see my distribution here. I have crit higher than the rest, but I do actually have a decent amount of mastery, verse, and haste. I actually would like to have more haste. But I think generally speaking, just having like your mastery be maybe your lowest stat, having the other two be about equal, and then crit maybe 1,000 above the next one is probably going to be the sweet spot, but you'll just have to sim your character to find out what is best for you. Other rare items are the Cloak off of Sarkarat. This thing is really, really strong, but it does not have stamina, so it's a little bit of a troll item, but it does give you a damage increase, whereas other cloaks do not have that function. And then probably the most important rare items here are the seals. So the Urn is Chosen is the one that gives us damage, and it's a huge increase. This is like 1.5% on top of the ring stats. So definitely try to get your hands on this one as soon as you can. And then we also have the Seal of Filial Duty. So this one doesn't actually give us additional damage. It's super high on mastery, but the effect on it is insane. So this gives you 260k Absorb Shield just randomly. And honestly, this thing is kind of a lifesaver. So I'm looking forward to using this ring. But if you don't have this one, just run something that doesn't have mastery on it. Whatever your highest item level stuff is. And you notice that the other trinket is Whispering Incarnate Icon. Now, this thing has been nerfed a couple times, but it is still our best in slot trinket as long as we have allies in the raid with it. But if you aren't running this trinket, you can always just check my Wowhead guide. I have a list of all the trinkets here. So Neltharian's Call to Chaos is also a great one. Again, Spoils, if you don't already have it on use. Spill of Rose, even if you already have it on use. OCE, all fantastic trinkets. But I think for the most part, just grabbing the icon from the Bullion Vendor is probably going to be the way to go. Hopefully they don't nerf this thing a third time. But if they do, we have decent alternatives still. When it comes to embellishments, we're still going to be running the adaptive bracers. These things are just way too good to let go of, but we are actually changing up the boots. So you notice that I'm no longer using the slow boots, the acidic hailstone treads. Instead, now I'm running the crafted boots with the zone of focus on them. And the reason for this is just because it scales better. We have just like so much more damage now, and our tier bonus is making our damage go so much higher. It turns out that we get more damage overall just by getting additional mastery. Even though mastery may not be our best stat, it's still very, very close to the other stats. So yeah, definitely make yourself a crafted boot set, use these, and then everything else in here, you kind of just want to get haste, verse, crit. Avoid mastery when you can, but sometimes you're going to get some mastery. But let raid bots make those decisions about what equipment to use for you. Just try to prioritize gear without mastery. When it comes to our consumables, it's the exact same stuff that you're already working with. So make sure you have those elemental potions of ultimate power. Make sure you're using the ice vial of corrupting rages. And then make sure you have those buzzing runes as well. One thing I want to note here is that you should no longer be using the dreamwalking healing potions. These things just don't heal you enough for them to be worth using. Our HP pools are going to be like up in the millions. So if you're healing for 100k, that's doing absolutely nothing for you. The entire purpose of a health potion is to save you in an instance where you would die otherwise. So make sure that you buy the potions of Withering Dreams. These do have a downside where they damage you over 30 seconds, but that's a really long time. And healers can always heal that up. But the instant heal for 600k is going to do a lot more work for you in the grand scheme of things than having like this really wimpy potion. So I recommend just only use the Dreamweaver health potions if you're doing solo content or if you don't have a healer in the group. Okay, so here we're going to show an example of the opener. So it's the same as right now with the Living Flame into the Spindle. Let that Spindle fully finish, and then you're going to want to Dragon Rage into Fire Breath, into Shattering Star, into Eternity Surge. Here you can tip the scales and use your potion, and you're going to want to start chaining Disintegrates. And you can clip at that third tick if you want. The red tick Weakaura is in my YouTube guide. I'm going to go ahead and post a link to that. So you're going to notice here, I tip the scales on that second Fire Breath. I use my Eternity Surge. And then here, I want to just cast those Disintegrates, but there are going to be situations where Shattering Star is up and Blue Iridescence has like one stack left. In a lot of cases, you kind of just have to make a decision in that moment, like which one is more important for me to use right now. Is it convenient for me to use the second Disintegrate here? Should I hold the Shattering Star? So outside of Dragon Rage, it's more important to use Shattering Star just like on cooldown, but if you can conveniently get it to just be right in front of your Eternity Surge, usually that ends up being more damage. In this case, since I have so much essence, I wanted to get it out right away so that I could just chain a bunch of Disintegrates in a row and let a bunch of this damage come out here. So you'll notice also I'm paying attention to my red iridescence. I don't always clip at the third tick, but if I have like red iridescence about to end, then I might clip for that. When it comes to clipping, the rule is if you have a burnout proc, you can clip. If you have a shattering star, you can clip. If you have an empower, you can clip. If you have another disintegrate, you can clip. If you don't have any of those things and you're just going to be casting like a hard cast living flame or like an azure strike, then you would not clip in that case. Also, outside of Dragon Rage, you only clip if you're going to be capping out on essence. Whenever I say clip, I just mean casting a disintegrate and then another spell before the disintegrate fully channels out. A normal disintegrate has 4 ticks. A chained one, if you cast a disintegrate into another disintegrate before the end, which you'll notice me doing like all the time, that one will have 5 ticks. So whenever I say doing it at the third one and I'm clipping, it's because I would have had 5 and now I'm having only 3 instead. It makes you do slightly more damage at the cost of more essence. If you want more information on this, click the info card up in the top right. That's going to be my disintegrate, ticks, Weakaura, and the video explaining, clipping, and chaining so that you have that information. There isn't really like too much gain to it though. Like if you don't want to bother with this at all, it's not a huge deal, to be honest with you. But the main thing is just making sure that you don't waste procs, right? So using your empowers right away, using your shattering star right away. If you have like a red iridescence about to end, use that burnout right away. Make sure that you're doing those things. That's when it's really important to clip. I'm going to rewind here because I've been ranting about clipping for a bit. But so like as your Dragon Rage is ending, you want to try to end the Dragon Rage with Essence Burst if you can. So you'll notice here, like towards the tail end of my Dragon Rage, I am going to try and end with a instant cast Living Flame with Burnout. So we're coming up on the end of Dragon Rage. I actually almost get this third extension. I'm so close, I barely miss it. Super sad. If I had just like a little bit more haste, I would have hit that. But anyway, so I'm not actually using that Eternity Surge right away. You notice after the Fire Breath, I'm waiting on the tier bonus, and I have a Weakaura for this. If you want to just go download it, it's going to be in the description below. But that little bar basically is giving me increased damage on my tier bonus, and I want to make sure I space it out. I don't want to munch that time there, so I'm just kind of like using Fire Breath, maybe doing like 1 or 2 casts, and then I'll use an Eternity Surge and let that thing give me as much damage as possible. And here I use the Disintegrate, but you know, it could have gone either way with the Shattering Star. I think it probably would have been more correct to Shattering Star there, but it would have munched the blue iridescence. And then, so Dragon Rage is still a ways out, so I don't really need to worry about holding any empowers or anything like that. I'm just going to continue on like normal. So just spacing out my empowers, trying to make use of my red iridescence there. You saw I used that burnout proc at the very last second for instant living flame so that I didn't waste that red iridescence there. I'm going to use this Fire Breath, and I will also use this next Eternity Surge because we still have a bit on Dragon Rage here. So Dragon Rage is coming up in 16 seconds, 15, 14. The cutoff for me is around like 12 seconds. I think that's generally where to stop casting your empowers. And if it's above 12, then you would just want to make sure that your Fire Breath is up right away and your Eternity Surge would be up. So I'm going to skip ahead here on this next Dragon Rage. So Dragon Rage is coming up again. You'll notice that my empowers are actually still on cooldown. So in this case, I'm actually going to buy a little time so I can make sure that everything lines up. So I could spindle here, but I'm not going to. I'm going to wait until right about here. And I give myself Ancient Flame. That way my next Living Flame will be faster, just in case I get unlucky. And then again, Dragon Rage into Fire Breath into Eternity Surge, or Shattering Star if you have it, and then Eternity Surge. That's better, but I didn't have it there. And then using those procs, I'm going to actually aggressively clip here, I think, because I'm about to cap on Essence. So that's usually when I start really aggressively clipping. I don't want my Essence to sit full. You notice I preloaded that tip scales for the Fire Breath whenever I did the instant cast. That way it would just instantly go off. I wouldn't have to worry about casting it right before the Fire Breath. It's a nice thing to do. And then here, as the Dragon Rage is ending, I'm just going to go ahead and go back to the main rotation. And I think we've talked about this enough, so hopefully you get the idea. But this is the single target rotation and the opener. So for AoE, the biggest thing that changes is just the level that we send our empowers. Generally speaking, Eternity Surge is best to just send at level 1 in Dragon Rage just so you can get the extension, but there are some exceptions to that. So at 4 targets, you can use rank 2. At 6 targets, you can use rank 3, but otherwise, I would just send at rank 1 just because the opportunity cost of being locked into an Eternity Surge is just too high. Now for Fire Breath, there's a lot of variability, but I think generally speaking, you just want to send at max rank if you can. However, there are problems with doing that. Like for instance, if you send your Fire Breath right away after Dragon Rage at max rank, like tip the scales right on the opener, you're probably going to pull threat. Right, so obviously before the Mythic Plus key begins, you can put your tip the scales on your character and they'll just have it preloaded. So you actually get 2 tip the scales in the first pull. That's going to be really dangerous for your threat, but It is really, really powerful, but if the targets are going to live long enough, doing just a rank 1 Fire Breath, at least on the first Fire Breath, is totally fine too. So that's what I'm going to show here. Also, try to always have your Ancient Flame from your Verdant Embrace or your Emerald Blossom and some Scarlet Adaptation 2 going in if you can. This can only really be done once the key starts because it's going to reset before then. But let's say I'm rolling up to like a normal pull. I'm going to go ahead and lead with the Shattering Star so that my Dragon Rages, whenever those pyres come down, it does as much damage as possible. And so I just always have an Essence Burst going in. That's what I'm going to do first. So I go ahead and run in and send out my Shattering Star into Dragon Rage into a rank 1 Fire Breath here just to be a little safe. And then I'm going to pre-tip the scales for the second one. And I'm just throwing out as many pyres as I can. And I'm getting cooldown reduction on all these and any bounces as well. As soon as I get that cooldown reduction on my Fire Breath and it's back up, I'm going to go ahead and send it. I'll use this Shattering Star right away too. I'll use this one Living Flame as well, just because I might have a Leaping Flame there. And then here I'm going to max rank my Fire Breaths, and I'm going to rank 1 my Eternity Surge right afterwards, and then start just sending out those pyres. And you do want to Azure Strike and AoE, but you notice I'm doing a lot of Living Flames just because I have like Leaping Flames on it. Oh, and we can barely get another extension there. That was really close. Almost didn't make it. But you notice that in AoE, the extensions can be pretty nice. It's definitely RNG dependent though, because every single bounce of volatility is giving you cooldown reduction. That's the talent where you have that chance for Pyre to bounce. Each one of these is 2 seconds off due to causality. Also, Dragon Rage shoots off 3 as well, so those are all going to give you 2 seconds if they hit 5 targets. So lots of cooldown reduction there. And then outside of Dragon Rage, what you want to do is try to send your Fire Breath at max rank. And then outside of Dragon Rage, sending Eternity Surge higher up is totally fine. You'll notice here I'm kind of spacing it out because I want to keep that Blazing Shards buff as much as I can. So that's still important in AoE. Just try to space out your empowers a little bit if you can. Always try to do 1 Living Flame between each set of Fire Breaths there, because that will actually get you more damage in the long run. I'm going to send that rank 2 this time since it's 5 targets. But yeah, you just want to maximize your Blazing Shards as much as possible. Here I'm going to actually Living Flame. I almost did Fire Breath. That was almost a mistake. Yeah, Living Flame first there so I could get my Leaping Flames out. And I'm not actually going to use this Eternity Surge yet. But what I am going to do is get it prepped for the Shattering Stars here. So here I Shattering Star into Dragon Rage. And again, I'm just going to send those Empowers back to back here in Dragon Rage, using the rank 1 Fire Breath to try and be a little careful on the threat. I'm going to hardcast a Living Flame there because Fire Breath is about to come up and I don't want to waste a Leaping Flames if I can help it. And then here we have a Shattering Star, so I'm going to go and send that. And I'll Azure Strike here. We have another Fire Breath. I'm going to send this one at rank 1 just because I might be able to get another extension. I have kind of a feeling that maybe if I'm a little bit aggressive here with how quick my Fire Breath is, I might be able to get this extension. And it looks like it paid off because I did get that 3rd, or was that maybe the 4th extension? I can't remember. Either way, I got the extension. And then here we're going to end with that Living Flame just so we get Essence Burst. And then yeah, now we're back outside of Dragon Rage again. So I'm going to max rank this Fire Breath. Throw in a couple Pyres here while we wait. I'll do a rank 2 Eternity Surge here just because it gives me enough time for that to free up my Blazing Shards. And then here I'm going to just start Azure Striking because I'm building, just buying some time between these. And you get the idea. Very similar to the current AoE. Very, very similar. The main thing is just that you want to space out your empowers outside of Dragon Rage. That's really it. Now, there is an alternative method you can use. Again, it's a little dangerous, but if you don't have tip skills already up, what you can do is lead with a max rank Fire Breath after Shattering Star into Dragon Rage instead. So just kind of reordering those spells. What that will do is it'll make it so all of your pyres benefit from red iridescence. This is only something I really recommend if you trust the tank, and also if it's just like a huge amount of targets. That way you just get a lot more damage on those pyres, because having the Dragon Rage before it, you're going to get already just like a ton of cooldown reduction because all the pyres are going to give you 2 seconds each, right? And you're also just getting that 20% more damage on the Dragon Rage itself. It's a lot more damage. So that would look something like this. You would do you Shattering Star, and then you do a max rank Fire Breath, and then Potion Trinkets, anything you have, and then Dragon Rage. Boom, and that'll just hit like a lot harder there. And then just, you know, same rotation afterwards, just trying to get out as many pyres as possible, get that tip to scales ready. So as soon as it's ready, we can send it off. Boom. just like so. And I'll use that rank 1 Eternity Surge here. Use the Living Flame just so we can get that Leaping Flames out. I'll use the Shattering Star too. I have a Fire Breath up, so I'm going to send that rank 1 because I think I might be able to get that extension. I feel like with the amount of haste I have right now in the PTR, that might be the sweet spot. Oh, also, if you're doing like empowers and something happens and you have to like move your character. Oh, we barely got it. Yes, dude. Oh, I got the empower bug. No. Okay, so I'm going to include this in the video because sometimes this happens. Sometimes you press an empower spell and you finish it, and then your character just does like a weird animation cancel. It's pretty rare for it to happen, so I'm kind of glad it happened just now. But if that happens to you, just know that that's not you making a mistake. That's just a bug with the game. But anyways, I totally lost my train of thought there. But basically what I was trying to say is the important thing is just making sure that you actually just send your empower. So if you have to cancel it early, that's not a big deal. Okay. The more important thing is just that you don't channel an empower and then move without casting it. That's going to lose you damage. Or, you know, bug out with the empower bug, which is still apparently in the game, even though it's been there since beta. Hopefully they fix this in the War Within. Anyways, so that is the AoE rotation. I should also add that in AoE, your stats are a little bit different. So haste becomes like your best stat by a mile in AoE. And I think you can probably see why, right? Like haste gives you those extensions. I think it's even above intellect. So it's like really, really good stats. So try to have your haste as high as possible. And also when you're doing Mythic Plus, try to just use Howling Runes instead. Any way you can get more haste is going to be good. But anyways, that is going to be it for today. So this is your Season 4 update. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more of my content, be sure to subscribe to the channel, ring that notification bell, and hopefully I see you in the next one.